So nowadays we get all these people thinking outside the box. Everybody's doing it. In this tutorial, we're going to think outside the triangle. That's right, guys. You might not have heard of him. I know I didn't, but Heron of Alexandria, or Hero of Alexandria, he lived about 2,000 years ago, a Greek mathematician. He actually invented the first steam engine. But what he also did is create a formula that allows you to find the area of a triangle without knowing the height. Heron's Formula. Now, in order to use Heron's Formula, we need to have the measurements of all three sides. And the first thing we need to do is find out the value of a variable s. And s is simply the sum of all three sides divided by 2. We're going to take that value and subtract each of the sides to get 3 separate values. We're going to multiply those 3 values together, then multiply that by s and find the square root of the product. So this is what the formula looks like. All right, so let's do that in Scratch.
All right, here we are back in Scratch Town. Who's in the mood for a little geometry? I know I am. Heron, great dude. Lived back, I don't know, a couple of thousand years ago. I've always wondered, what if you don't know the height? So Heron's got the answer, right? So he's got his own little formula here. And this formula is going to find the area of a triangle without knowing the height. You will, though, have to know all 3 sides. And we need to get them as input, which means variables. All right, so we're going to do all the work on the stage, so we don't even need a sprite for this program. So the first thing I'm going to do is delete the cat. Right-click, delete. We need some variables, so let's get that done. Under Data, all right, we need all 3 sides. So I'm going to make a variable. I'm going to name it S1 for side 1. I'm going to create a second variable. I'm going to call that S2 for side 2. And of course, S3 for side 3. We are also going to need the area. That's what we're calculating. So I'm going to make a variable, call it area. And we're going to need a 5th variable. As we talked about, there is a calculation that needs to be made, a variable s, that needs to be used in our final formula. So we're going to actually have to store that value in a variable, and we're going to make another variable and call that s. All right, so let's create the program. Let's click on Scripts. I'm going to start the program with a flag click. Now the first thing we want to do is initiate our variables. At the very beginning of the program, we want all of these things to equal 0. So let's go to our data. We have 5 variables, so we're going to need 5 set commands. I'm going to set them all to 0. Okay, second thing we're going to do is we're going to prompt the user for all 3 sides. And we get the prompt from sensing. And prompt means just to ask. So we're going to ask the user, I'm going to type in here, what is the length of side 1? And now we got to set the value. So under data, set S1 back to sensing, it will equal the answer. Okay, so we need to do this 2 more times to get side 2 and 3. So I'm going to use a little shortcut. I use a lot, the duplicator or the stamper up here at the top. Click. I'm going to go to my ask block, click and drag. And then I'm going to set the prompt not to be side 1, but side 2. And then I'm going to set the value of side 2 to equal that answer. And I'm going to do that one more time. Side 3 and S3. And now I've got my three sides. The next thing we need to do is calculate S. Now to calculate S, we need to add all three sides together and then divide by 2. So under operators, we have to add three numbers. So I'm going to get 2 add blocks. Put one inside the other. So it allows me to add 3 numbers in total. I'm going to go to my data and get S1, S2, and S3. Now we need to take that sum and divide it by 2. So I'm going to go to my operators again, get the divide. I'm going to put this block that we created in the numerator, and then 2 in the denominator. Now that number that we just calculated is S. So I'm going to go to my data and set S to equal what we just calculated. Now in our second step, we're going to use S to find the area. Now what we have to do here is take S and multiply it by S minus A multiplied by S minus B multiplied by S minus C. So let's go to operators and get those operators. So the first thing we have to do is subtract 3 times. 1, 2, 3. Now in each one of those we need to take away from S. S, S, S. And what do we have to take each of the 3 sides? S1, S2, and S3. Now right there is 3 values. S is our 4th value. So we want to take these 4 numbers and multiply them with each other. So let's build that block. So multiply 1, multiply 2, multiply 3. So now we have 4 spaces for the 4 numbers. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, and we're not yet done. We need to take that product and find the square root of that product. So down under operators, so down towards the bottom, last block, square root of number we just calculated. And that right there is our area, but to avoid any issues of going out to some decimal point, we're just going to round that number. And that is our area. So let's go to data. We're going to set area to equal that number we calculated. Now while we're in data, I do not need to see the S. That's calculated behind the scenes, so I'm going to uncheck that. I'm going to click my flag. I'm going to run a couple of tests. So I know a 3, 4, 5 should give me an area of 6. So let's do that. 3, enter, 4, enter, 5, enter, area of 6. That worked well. I also know that 16, 10, and 19 should equal 80. 16, 10, and 19. And that equals 80. Okay, so our formula works. Now the one thing I would do at this point is just to make it appear better. Make it a better experience for the user. So let me go into backdrops. And I'm going to make this quick and easy, but you can take your time to do whatever it is you want. So the first thing I'm going to do is give it a title. I'm going to type in Herons Formula. Make that bigger. Okay, maybe give it some color. Maybe put some color in the background. fill in the little holes in the letters. Good. Let me type here. We'll go side. Change that to black. Side. Side 1. Side 2. Side 3. Oops. 3. Click another tool over here. Area. And go to my variables. Take side 1, give it a double click. 1, 2. Second side. 1, 2. Third side. 1, 2. Get my area. I think you get the idea. So we did the work. Now we're trying to present it in a nicer way. So now if I run my program, click the flag. Side 1 is 3, 4, 5, area 6. We're done. All right, guys, as usual, nicely done. Thanks for stopping by. Subscribe if you haven't. Like what you like, and we'll see you next time.